What happens when confidence turns into overconfidence? When a seasoned voice, quiet for too long, returns with something to prove. No one expected fireworks, but no one saw the match being lit either. The studio had hosted tension before, but tonight there was something volatile in the air, something just waiting to ignite. Capitol Verdict, the live political forum that prided itself on civil clashes and thinly veiled jabs, had unknowingly booked the storm. Jasmine Crockett arrived first, as she always did. Staffers said she liked to own the room early, though. She claimed it was just to test the lighting. With her trademark crimson blazer and a smile sharpened by years in the courtroom and Congress alike, she moved with the ease of someone used to applause. Her recent rise had been meteoric. Viral moments, snappy sound bites, and a following that adored every unapologetic word. Tonight she was ready to collect another clip. What she didn't know was that Pam Bondi wasn't here to play along. Pam entered quietly. No entourage, no fanfare. Just a calm presence and a manila folder pressed tightly beneath her arm. The producers barely noticed her at first, but there was something unsettling about her silence, something measured. She didn't glance at the camera, didn't greet the makeup crew. She sat down, placed the folder beside her chair, and waited. When the cameras rolled, the moderator wasted no time diving in. Tonight we're talking oversight, ethics, and power. Who has it? Who's abusing it? And who's being held accountable? Crockett leaned forward instantly, taking the bait. Let's talk about abuse of power then. Because the last administration, Bondi interrupted without even looking up. The panel froze, not because of the interruption, but because of the tone. Bondi's voice wasn't loud, but it cut. Low, deliberate, controlled. The way a lawyer speaks when they already know the verdict. I assume you're referring to abuse, Pam continued. Oh, in the form of selective outrage. Like building a career out of calling everyone corrupt, except the ones writing your checks. Crockett blinked, then scoffed. Excuse me. You will, Bondi said. Then she reached for the folder. There it was. The moment everything shifted. The moderator, sensing the tension, tried to steer the conversation back to neutral ground. We're here to debate policy, not personal history. But Pam Bondi ignored him. See, that's the thing, she said, sliding a paper onto the desk. You talk about accountability like it's theater, like it's only real if you're center stage. But some of us were fighting corruption when you were still practicing your Twitter comebacks. Crockett smirked, but the corners of her mouth twitched just slightly. This supposed to scare me? No, Bondi replied, finally looking her in the eye. It's supposed to expose you. The camera caught it, a flash of uncertainty across Crockett's face. Small, quick, but it was there. And the live chat was already exploding. Pam wasn't done. I've got receipts, testimony, financial ties you hoped no one would trace. And tonight, we're going through them. The studio went still. For once, even Jasmine had no comeback. Not yet. What no one realized, not the moderator, not the producers, not even Crockett, was that Bondi had been watching, collecting, waiting, and now, with every fact in place, she'd chosen this moment to strike. This wasn't an argument. It was a slow, methodical demolition, and it had only just begun. Pam didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The truth was louder than any headline Jasmine had ever crafted. What happens when someone walks into a fight thinking it's a debate? But the other side brought evidence instead of opinions. Jasmine Crockett was used to sparring. On Capitol Edge, she'd made a name by carving through sound bites like a scalpel. She was quick, sharp, and rarely thrown off rhythm. But now, with the manila folder cracked open beside her, her rhythm faltered. Pam Bondi didn't attack with volume. She didn't wave her arms, didn't lean in for effect. She simply slid the first sheet across the desk. A highlighted financial disclosure. Do you want to read this aloud? Bondi asked coolly. Or should I? Crockett narrowed her eyes. You dug up old filings? That's your smoking gun? Bondi didn't flinch. No, that's the opening act. She turned to the moderator. Can we get this on the screen? Reluctantly, the producers complied. A digital copy appeared on the monitor behind them. A donation from a shell pack routed through a consulting firm Crockett had once dismissed as a short-term vendor. But the timing in the amount was damning. Bondi continued, her voice steady. While publicly condemning corporate influence, you were taking money funneled through 3 separate firms, all tied to the same lobbying group. A group whose legislative goals you later echoed word for word on the floor. Crockett scoffed. This is conspiracy theory nonsense. No, Bondi said, lifting another document. It's FEC filings, tax records, and timestamped speeches. I'm not accusing you of anything illegal, Jasmine. I'm accusing you of being a fraud. The panel fell silent. Even the usual partisan defenders shifted uncomfortably. One of them leaned back, arms crossed, suddenly unsure if they wanted to jump in. Crockett blinked. So you're trying to say I'm corrupt now? That's rich coming from someone who worked for Trump's defense. Pam leaned in just slightly. I never sold out my values for clout. I never monetized outrage. You claim to fight for people, but behind the curtain, you're just another brand. Curated, calculated, and deeply compromised. For the first time, Jasmine didn't respond with words. She reached for her water, hand steady, but only just. The camera caught it. The audience saw it. Pam pressed forward. You built your platform by being loud, not right. You knew exactly how far to push, exactly what phrases would trend. But eventually, people ask for more than attitude. They ask for truth. And when that happens, performance isn't enough. The moderator tried to break in. Let's keep this constructive. Bondi turned to him. I'm being constructive. I'm constructing a full public record of a representative who sells moral outrage like it's merch. The voters deserve to know what they're really buying. It was brutal. Not in tone, but in precision. Bondi wasn't improvising. She'd prepared. Every document was numbered, every statement sourced. This wasn't a character assassination. It was a cross-examination, live and in real time. Crockett tried to pivot. People are watching this, Pam. You think this makes you look strong? It makes you look petty, desperate. Desperate people don't bring facts, Bondi said quietly. They bring slogans. And that's all you've ever had. The audience in the studio wasn't clapping. They were stunned, even the tech. Crew, usually numb to political theater, had stopped pretending to work. This wasn't just a takedown. It was a reckoning. And as Crockett stared into the monitor, watching her own donation scroll past in white text on black background, her expression finally cracked. Pam Bondi didn't smirk. She didn't gloat. She simply reached for the next sheet. We're just getting started. What does a persona look like when the cameras stop rolling? When the lights dim and no audience is left to impress? That's when the truth starts whispering. And sometimes it roars. The commercial break hit like a gasp of air after a long-held breath. The producers had stretched the segment longer than planned, unable to cut away from the wreckage in real time. But now, with sponsors rolling and earpieces buzzing, the stage lights dimmed and tension bled into every inch of the set. Jasmine Crockett pushed back from the desk first. Her expression, tightly held on camera, fractured the moment she stood. She didn't storm out, she didn't speak, but her silence said what her voice no longer could. Pam Bondi remained seated. Pam, do you want some water? A stagehand asked cautiously. I'm fine. She didn't look away from the stack of documents, didn't adjust her mic. She sat like someone halfway through a job, and not the kind that left room for second guesses. In the green room, the mood was darker. Crockett had gone there alone, slamming the door behind her. Two of her aides followed, one holding a phone, the other whispering damage control, but Jasmine wasn't listening. She stood facing the mirror, not to check her appearance, but to collect what was left of her composure. She came for me like it was personal, she muttered. This wasn't about politics. She's got a vendetta. But deep down, she knew that wasn't true. There had been no venom in Bondi's voice, no malice, just facts. Methodical, merciless facts. Her phone buzzed. Messages poured in from Full. Allies, followers, even colleagues. Some were supportive, others more cautious. Need to clarify this, Asa P. Not a good look. Call me before responding. Did you know about these connections? The cracks were spreading. Back on set, Bondi stood. A producer approached her quietly. You dropped a bomb. Don't be surprised if she tries to flip this post-show. Pam gave a thin smile. She can try. You planned this, the producer said, not as an accusation, but a quiet observation. Why now? Pam looked toward the green room, then back at the desk. Because people forget. They forget who they elected. They forget what the truth sounds like. And someone has to remind them, especially when the noise gets loud enough to drown everything else out. There was history here, not between Bondi and Crockett personally, but between what they represented. Pam had been on the receiving end of public backlash. been caricatured, dismissed, dragged through media mud. She knew the taste of it. But unlike Crockett, she hadn't built a career out of the fire. She'd walked through it quietly, and now she was reclaiming that quiet. Not with theatrics, but with precision. When the show returned from commercial, Jasmine Crockett reemerged. A little slower, a little stiffer, her aides flanked the heel edge of the set, but didn't sit. Pam looked up briefly, then went back to arranging her pages. The moderator cleared his throat. Welcome back. Before we continue, Congresswoman Crockett has asked for a brief response. Jasmine leaned into the mic. Her voice was steady, but something vital was gone. The polish, the punch, it had been stripped. I've been attacked. Before, she said. And every time I've stood my ground, I stand by my record and I won't be defined by a hit job wrapped in legal jargon. Bondi didn't react. She let the words hang there unchallenged, but the silence that followed was louder than any rebuttal because this time, no one clapped. No one snapped. The audience, the panelists, even the moderator just waited. Jasmine glanced around, unsure. What she was waiting for? Applause, maybe. But it never came. That's when she understood something had shifted. Not just the narrative, but the ground beneath it. She wasn't in control anymore. And Pam Bondi, she wasn't chasing headlines. She was handing out consequences. This wasn't over. But for Jasmine, the unraveling had already begun. What happens when the spotlight turns cold? When the moment you thought would define your dominance becomes the one that exposes your vulnerability? The stage was empty now, but the real consequences had just begun. The clip hit the internet before Jasmine Crockett even reached her car. It wasn't just one snippet. It was threaded, captioned, slowed down, dissected. Pam Bondi's calm voice slicing through prepared sound bites. Crockett blinking, silent. The receipts, the paper trail, the silence. It was everywhere. Cable news lit up with side-by-side breakdowns. The words shell donation and pack laundering slid across banners like blood in water. Conservative hosts praised Bondi as a scalpel in a world of hammers. Progressive outlets flinched, some calling it a hit job, others asking cautiously, why haven't we seen this before? Crockett's team scrambled. That night, a statement was released. Representative Crockett remains committed to transparency and integrity. Tonight's stunt by Pam Bondi was a theatrical ambush, not an honest debate. But the statement landed flat. The word stunt couldn't explain the documents. And for the first time in her career, Jasmine found herself fielding doubt from the very audience that once cheered her rise. The next morning, on a DC street corner she used to stroll past without notice, a reporter shouted a question over the traffic. Congresswoman, did you know about the PAC connections at the time of the donation? She didn't answer. Her sunglasses hid her eyes, but not the fact that she heard every word. At the same time, Pam Bondi was already sitting down for a second interview. This time, not on a panel, but alone, one-on-one across from a seasoned journalist who expected fireworks. Instead, Pam gave clarity. I didn't come back for revenge, she said simply. I came back because somewhere along the way, public service turned into performance. And we started mistaking viral moments for virtue. Do you think Jasmine Crockett's career is over? The interviewer asked. Pam didn't smile. That's not my decision. But careers built on image alone don't hold up under pressure. They crack. The quote trended within minutes. But it wasn't the soundbite that shook the foundation. It was what happened 2 nights later. Crockett, against her team's advice, appeared on a live stream. No makeup, no stylist, no edits, just her, sitting on a couch, visibly tired. I've heard what people are saying, she began, and I'm not here to spin. I've always stood on my record, and I still do. But maybe I got too comfortable playing to the crowd. Maybe I should have been watching my own house closer. She paused, not for effect, but because the words were heavy. I don't like Pam Bondi, but she came with facts. And for that I have to respond, not with anger, not with a comeback, but with clarity. So here it is. I'm reviewing every donation. I'm cutting ties. I'm cleaning house. Because if you stand for something, you better make sure your shadow stands with you. It wasn't an apology, but it wasn't denial either. Pam saw the clip the next morning. She didn't comment. She didn't post. She simply turned off her phone, slid her notes back into her folder, and prepared for her next appearance. That evening, they crossed paths again, not on a stage, not in front of cameras, but in a hallway at the Capitol near the elevators. Both women alone for the first time since the fire started. Crockett stopped. "You came hard." Pam looked at her. "You were loud." "I needed to be louder, without yelling." A pause. "You think I'm finished?" Crockett asked, not defiantly, but earnestly. Pam considered that. "No, but maybe now you know what you were building wasn't as solid as you thought." The elevator opened. Pam stepped in, turned, and added, "You want to last? Start laying." Bricks, not hashtags. The doors closed, and for the first time, Jasmine Crockett stood without applause, without defense, and began to ask herself if she was finally ready to build something real. Who are we without the spotlight? Without the cameras, the applause, the clever phrases that go viral? At the end of it all, what survives? The performance or the principle? 2 weeks passed. Not long by political standards, but enough time for the noise to settle into something more dangerous, reflection. For Jasmine Crockett, it was a reckoning, not with the public, but with herself. She kept her word. Quietly, without fanfare, she returned campaign donations that could not be cleanly explained. She cut ties with consultants who once promised reach and image over substance, and she didn't post about it. Not once. No grand statement, no thread. Just action, papered through filings and quiet confirmations. Some called it damage control. Others called it weakness. But Pam Bondi saw something else. She watched from a distance as the headlines softened. Not because Jasmine fought back harder, but because she stopped trying to spin and started doing the hard thing, fixing what was broken. Pam didn't return to the stage. She didn't milk the moment or ride the attention into a media tour. When asked to come back for a roundtable, she declined. "I'm not here for rounds," she told the producer. "I said what needed to be said, and I'm not going to ruin the weight of it by turning it into a routine." Instead, Pam went back to doing what she'd always done best, working quietly, with sharp edges and sharper memory. No one saw her walking the marble corridors of the Hill or with a folder tucked under her arm, meeting with ethics advisors, mentoring young staffers who didn't want to become another cautionary tale. She didn't need applause. She needed change. Then came the hearing. It was routine, or was supposed to be. A subcommittee meeting on campaign oversight, sparsely attended, often ignored. But when Crockett walked in, all eyes turned. She sat alone at the front table. No handlers, no prepared talking points. "I've made mistakes," she began. Some I knew about, some I chose not to see. But that's not an excuse, and I'm not here to protect my name. I'm here to protect the idea that public service should mean something. She laid out new proposals, stricter transparency measures, internal audits, cap on consulting firm influence, the kind of policy no one had ever expected her to champion. As she spoke, the room changed, not because of volume, but because of intention. In the back row, someone stood silently, arms crossed, watching, not judging, just measuring the weight of the words. Pam Bondi. They didn't speak afterward. They didn't need to. Pam walked out first, her folder tucked under her arm. She paused near the steps and looked back just once, locking eyes with the woman who weeks earlier had been riding high on style alone. Now, stripped of theatrics, Crockett was something else. Grounded. Pam nodded, just once. A signal. Crockett didn't nod back. She simply turned to the next page of her proposal. The story didn't end with a scandal. It didn't end with a fall from grace or a roaring comeback. It ended where few political stories do, in growth. Because sometimes the real obliteration isn't about humiliation. It's about shattering the illusion. And when the illusion breaks, only the truth is left standing. Pam Bondi didn't come to destroy Jasmine Crockett. She came to wake her up, and no one saw that coming.